Hey guys, Lytane here, and I've always wanted to go on an adventure, so much so that I even bought this treasure map. Yep, it's a legit treasure map, I swear. I hope it leads me on an exciting adventure. In a room that is used for YouTube, there is a door inside of a cube. Open it or else you'll be one of the loonies. Inside you'll find a treasure called the... Called the what? I think I know where that might be. Open it or you'll be one of the loonies. Inside is a treasure called... the Goonies. Of course it's the Goonies. Well, that wasn't much of an adventure to be sure, but maybe by watching this movie I can satisfy my thirst for it, and I can see if it's worth it at the same time. The Goonies is a movie that came out in 1985, written by Steven Spielberg and Chris Columbus, and directed by Richard Donner. You may have heard of some of these names before because they have done some very famous films. This movie follows a group of kids and teenagers as they go on a massive treasure hunt, but it doesn't actually start there. The kids are enjoying some time together as this will be the last day they get to spend as a group in their house. This is because the evil corporate douchebags are buying all of the property here to turn it into a golf course. The villains! The kids go up into the attic, which is full of old stuff that was rejected from the museum where Mikey's dad works. It is here that they discover a treasure map which gives clues how to get to the hidden treasure of One-Eyed Willie. The kids go off exploring even though they aren't supposed to be out and about, and Brand, Mikey's brother, goes out to get him back and bumps into his crush and her best friend who also tag along with him. They find Mikey and the other kids, but not before being dragged into a house where the adventure actually starts. They find the entrance to the tunnels which will lead them to the treasure is under this abandoned restaurant. Well, it's not exactly abandoned, it's home to a dangerous family of criminals called the Fratellis who have recently just broke out of prison. They even have a deformed and scary son in the basement. But wouldn't you know it, that's where the entrance is, so everyone sneaks in and starts the real adventure. They must also solve clues on the map, escape the various traps, and even lay some of their own just in case. It gets a little harder when the Fratellis learn about the secret tunnel and start the chase after the kids in order to get to the same treasure. Will the kids outthwart the bad guys, solve the puzzles, and find the treasure? All I do know is that the Goonies are good enough. Good enough for me. Yeah! This is a big cast of characters with all the Goonies, the Fratellis, the bad guys, and all the side characters that are thrown in. Some of them went on to do more memorable things after this, and some of them had a little bit of fame even before starting, but I can't go through all of the characters because there's just way too many, so I'm just going to focus on a few of them. Let's start with the main star, Mikey. He is played by Sean Astin, and you might remember him going on another epic adventure with Mr. Frodo. That's right, he is Samwise Gamgee from The Lord of the Rings. It's so cool to see him so young and short and skinny. He's changed so much since this movie, but as a lead, he's alright. He is a lot of the exposition that happens throughout the film, with a lot of his dialogue trying to be pushing the film forward. He's also the one that tries to get the adventure going, and he keeps everybody in the group together. He is definitely the leader of the group, and he does an alright job. One problem I do have with him is that he has got braces on, so some of his dialogue can be a little bit of a lisp or a little bit hard to hear, and at times he's not the best acting either, with some of his lines just being really forcefully given, especially his speech about One-Eyed Willie at the beginning where he's like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then that happened. It's a little bad acting, but for the majority of the film, he's pretty good. Brand, Mikey's older brother, is played by Josh Brolin, who you might also recognize. He played a younger Agent K in the Men in Black 3 movie, but you might know him better as a movie that he hasn't actually starred in yet. He is going to be Thanos in the next Avengers film, which, you know, is going to be coming out later. This was actually his first movie, so it's crazy to see him so young compared to what he looks like today. Being the older brother, he has a bit more of a protective role in the film, always trying to keep the kids and everybody else safe whilst trying to get them through some of the crazy hazards. He uses his strength and, you know, tallness and all that kind of stuff every now and then to help the kids solve the puzzles. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, there's a good chance that you heard of the two Coreys, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, who were just massive child stars at this point in time. And Corey Feldman is the one in this film, and he plays Mouth. He actually beat Corey Haim name in the audition. This is before they even met, which is just a fun fact, before they even became friends. Mouth is the funny one of the group. He's the one that always spouts the stupid one-liners and all the jokes and all that kind of stuff, but instead of just being the funny one, he also has a point to the film. He also knows how to read and translate Spanish, and of course the map is written in Spanish. This makes him very useful and integral to the plot, and actually is much better than a comic relief person who's just hanging around just because. So he does all of his jokes and everything, and then when a movie needs to get serious and move the plot along, he does translate, which is a very cool thing. The next character is Ki Hua Kwan, that plays Data, and I might have said his name wrong, and I apologize if I did. He is might be familiar to you as well, because he played Indiana Jones's sidekick in the second film, Temple of Doom, as Short Round. So he's just a pretty similar character actually to the one there, except this time he has a lot of tech, so he uses all different kind of gadgets and stuff like that in order to solve his problems, and usually he is the one that comes up with a lot of the solutions on accident. I do find his acting and his voice to be a little bit annoying because it's just really high-pitched and nasally, and it does grate on me at times, but as a character he's alright, and he's very useful because he does solve a lot of the problems throughout the film. Chunk, played by Jeff Cohen, is the kid that gave us the truffle shuffle, something that was really big in the 80s apparently, but I didn't really go through the 80s because I wasn't born then, so I didn't really experience that, but apparently it was big at the time. Now he plays more of the comic relief than any of the other characters. Where Mouth was a lot of the word and smarter humor, Chunk is a lot more of the slapstick, silly kind of humor. He does have a purpose in the film. Whenever the kids want to do something naughty, they usually set Chunk up to be the one to do it. So when they want to break down a door, they start telling him that he's fat and all that kind of stuff, and then he gets so angry that he breaks down the door. Or when they want to look at the map, which is inside a glass thing, they ask him to hold it, and in 5 seconds he breaks it. So he does have that kind of purpose, but then he gets separated from the group very early on in the film, and for the rest of the film he's just trying to play catch up to them. And I think that's a cool way to give a different kind of story, so it's just not all the kids in the basement. He has his own story and his own adventure that he goes through as well, which I think helps pad out the film. Martha Plimpton played Steph in this film, and you might recognize her if you ever saw the show Raising Hope. I never have, so I don't know, but apparently she's in that as a recurring character. In this movie, however, she's probably the weakest character of the entire group because she doesn't have much of a point. She doesn't really do anything to help save the day. She doesn't put her skills to use in any which way or form. She's just sort of there. I think it was just so they wouldn't have a group of boys hanging out with one girl, and it was just to add a bit more diversity to it. The last character is Andy, played by Carrie Green, and she is the love interest in the film. Brand has a big crush on her, and throughout the whole film he's sort of trying to make out with her, and of course, you know, things always get in the way, and it's like, it's none of that will they, won't they, it's just when will they eventually get time alone to make out, which is a little bit better than some of those other films. It's like, oh, will they, won't they, and you know they're gonna end up together. This one, they just put situations in place that just halt them doing their first kiss, which is fine. As a character though, she's a little bit bland, and she's not terribly interesting, but she does have a purpose in the film where she is the only one that can solve the organ puzzle, which is later on in the film, so at least better than Steph in the regards that she was useful to the group. And see, that's only the main Goonies. I still haven't talked about the Fratellis and their crazy son. I haven't talked about any of the side characters. I haven't talked about some of the other characters that are featured in the film. No, I just sort of glossed over a lot of those because there's just so much to talk about, and I just want to move on to the next topic, which will be the plot. This movie is an action-adventure film, and it does deliver on both of these counts. There are many creative traps that the Goonies have to solve and avoid in order to progress, and Chunks' side story with dealing with the Fratellis is also exciting. That said, the movie has a very slow and long opening. It starts with all of the kids hanging out at Mikey's, where we get a sense of who they are and what their relationship, which is great. This is something that I like in a film that has a lot of characters, and it's something that should have happened in a movie like Resident Evil, but they didn't do it. They then go into the attic where they find the treasure, and spend quite a long time looking at it and talking about it and giving off lots of exposition about the treasure, who owns it, and what could it mean if they do get it. Whilst all of that was a little slowly paced, it does set up the movie very well, but the next parts are not so good. As the kids start their adventure, and then Brand has to try and get them back to the first meeting with the Fratellis and all of that, it just goes so slowly, and they don't ever properly properly start the adventure until quite the way into the film. That's pretty crazy. As such, there is less time spent going through the cave, solving the puzzles and avoiding the traps, and I think they should have spent more time down there. The second story involving Chunk is actually pretty well done, but it is also slow. A way to pad out the movie so the Fratellis don't just start the hunt for the treasure straight away, giving the kids a chance to do things for themselves. Overall, the movie feels a little too long at times, and I think some scenes should have been shortened or cut and other things should have taken their place. The cinematography in this movie is absolutely fantastic. All of the props and all of the sets look so amazing. From the very simple one when they're in the attic and it's just covered in all cobwebs and all of the cool and old art and all that kind of stuff, it looks really good. Then when you get to the Fratelli's house and it's all run down, once again covered in dust and cobwebs and stuff, and without really giving you much information in the terms of talking, you can see just how crappy and run down this place is, and that it isn't actually supposed to be a restaurant, that it is a bad guy hideout. That's why it's so run down. There's a lot of shocking imagery as well when they go down to the basement for the first time, and there's a bit of a horror element to it when they meet the deformed son of the Fratellis. It's really well shot and it's really well acted on the boys' part, both Chunk and Mikey that do meet him. I like how some of the booby traps and other things are way over the top and they just wouldn't really work today, but it's exciting to watch it as you see like a bowling ball rolling down or you see like something cutting a rope. It's just all exciting because you don't know what to expect next. As the kids are exploring these caves, it does take an interesting turn. Not all the caves look the same. Some of the lighting is different, some of the cave walls are different, and I thought it would get a little dull going through the caves so much, but they do change it up quite a bit with new camera shots, new looking hallways and new looking rooms for the caves. Also the fact that they use water in some of it and it's dry in others. Even the imagery of the skull after the pee break in the film when they're walking into the next area of the caves looks fantastic. Like, just the amount of work that got put into the backgrounds and all that kind of stuff in this film is just top notch. Then of course at the end of the film they get to the pirate ship of One-Eyed Willie, and that is a real life set. No CGI or any like blue screen, green screen, what they would have been using at the time. Nope, it is a huge set, and they built it with all of the water and all the rocks around it. It is an incredible looking feat of expertise here. Fun fact, when the Goonies first get to the pirate ship, that is their real reaction when they turn around, because they were never allowed to see the set being built and they wanted to get a genuine reaction out of them when they saw it for the first time, which is so incredible, which is actually on par with a lot of other Spielberg movies. He does know how to put on a good spectacle and show off a lot of good imagery in a movie. Even if all of his characters and stories aren't good, usually the cinematography in all of his films are pretty top notch. Now, I've been told by many people that I sometimes look a little too into movies and shows and I should just accept what they are trying to tell me, and to that I say no! If I just accepted movies and didn't question them, I would go crazy. I even started this show just so I could point things out in movies. So I'd like to point a few things out. Like, I get that a history museum has to pick and choose what goes on display and what will be in the museum. But how could they pass up on a 300-year-old map written by a famous pirate with a real doubloon? That alone would be worth a small fortune of money because it's real and there is so much history behind it. There's just no reason why it wouldn't be in the museum aside from plot convenience. Many of Data's gizmos and tricks are plot driven and make no sense. How would he put slick stuff into his shoes and then activate it? Does that mean he has like wires running down his pants to connect to his shoes? I'm happy that he just happened to wear those shoes today, otherwise that scene couldn't happen. I'm also glad that all that running, jumping, and adventuring didn't break the things inside of his shoes, and obviously it was a gimmick that just helps the kid out, but damn, it so annoys me. The other is his pinches of power. How does that actually help him in real life? Even in a fight near the end, it led to a funny moment, but it proved to be useless. However, in the middle of the film when he's about to fall to his death, these things save him. They have enough power to hold up a teenage kid on a flimsy rock. BS right there. I call BS. With that much power in the pinches, that guy should have become a woman in my opinion. I'm also glad that they read the map in the right order, but how do they know the order? There aren't any numbers in the passages or anything, but sure enough, every time they get stuck and have a look at the map, they just magically read the right passage that has to do with the current trap or things that they have to avoid. Also, this joke just kind of annoys me. A sharp is the same note as B flat, so the line in that movie is irrelevant, but it's just a silly joke, and it just annoys me a little. Also, the Fratellis really suck at being bad guys. They bumble around the whole movie, always one step behind until the end, and honestly, I don't know why they suck so badly besides plot convenience. Like trying to shoot the kids and throwing the gun to a person not even looking, and then trying to pick it up for a few minutes only to miss the shot. Even at the start, I don't get why they even let the kids into the restaurant. The mum could have clearly said that this place they just bought and it's just in the process of being cleaned up, so they aren't open yet, so now you have to leave. Honestly, that wouldn't have stopped the kids because they went back anyway, but they didn't know that. The other thing is that why didn't the Fratellis kill Chunk when they had the chance? It's obvious that they killed people because they shot the guy that's in the basement in the freezer, but they don't kill Chunk. If anything, he is one big witness that they need to get rid of, and it's shown that they kill people, so why keep him alive and chain him up with Sloth? It doesn't make any sense. Also, when they get onto the pirate ship, they aren't wet, which is just a minor thing in my opinion, but still, it's just a plot hole. One thing that has bugged me in all these films is that the traps and the treasure have never been found or triggered after all of these years. Just like I said in my National Treasure video, how the heck have all of these rope, chains, and rock traps lasted over 300 years without breaking? Like, rope degrades over time, and these caves have water running through them, which would only enhance the degrading process because water destroys things much quicker than anything else. So I cannot believe for an instant that none of these traps in the 350 years that people have been searching for this treasure have been sprung before this point. Another thing that I don't really get is at one point the Goonies run into a room that is filled with pipes, all these little small pipes that lead up to the golf resort or something that's up above, and that's fine, it leads to some humor and other little things, but it doesn't make any sense. They start banging on these pipes. There is no way anybody on the surface would have heard or realized what was happening underground. Not only that, but how did these pipes get here? At no point do we see a main sewer line or any other giant pipes. You only ever see these small pipes, so I have no idea what they're actually connected to, because I'm pretty sure you have to be connected to a centralized sewer system of some kind in order to get water to these premises, but we never see that. Then again, how did the pipes get down here? That means people would have had to put them in. Physical people would have had to come into these caves at one point or another and put these pipes into place. That means we've had, just blue-collar workers working on these pipes, but they didn't put down any railings, they didn't excavate some of the tunnels to, put up some walls or handrails or even just make the floor nice and neat. No. Also, where are the manholes and ladders and all that kind of stuff? How do they get in and out of this cave? Do they just spelunk down or something? I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense. Plus, all of these caves are filled with booby traps and such, and I get that at one point they break one of the pipes and then the water reveals the way, but you could see that there are other caves and other branching paths from here, but they never go down them because they follow the one that they just discovered. Like I said, that's fine. But none of the other workers went down any of these caves? I find it really hard to believe that no one, not a single worker that put in these pipes accidentally discovered a different pathway or went exploring in these tunnels. What's more is that it is implied that after One-Eyed Willie got trapped in the cave because of all the pirates, that he went through a bunch of the caves and a bunch of the cave systems in order to create his traps. That means there's not just one linear way to go from the entrance down to the pirate ship. There are branching paths, there are branching caves and all that kind of stuff. Maybe they just lead to dead ends, but I feel that they would be having more traps, different things in order to kill people or to send them off in the wrong direction, and it just happened so that the kids picked all the right choices, or maybe there are multiple ways to get to the pirate ship. I don't know, but not a single person discovered one of these other traps or anything like that, not a single person, even though it's clearly seen that people have been coming down here. So I don't understand it, I don't get it, and it's really, really dumb, and I feel like that's a major plot hole and a major plot convenience that they just leave out. If they had just gotten rid of that one pipe scene, none of these questions would have been raised, but nope, it's in there, so I have to ask these questions. The final thing I question is Brand. So at the beginning of the film, they find the map, and then the Goonies decide that they want to go on the treasure hunt, but Brand says no because they're just kids and it's dangerous and he's in charge of them, all the normal older brother stuff, which is fine. So then they trick him and they go on their adventure anyway. How does he know where they're going? He didn't study the map. He doesn't know where everything is. He doesn't know that the kids are going down to this one random restaurant in the heart of the coastline. How would he know that? He doesn't. Yet he rides his bike and finds them. How? That is so amazing. He must like have a GPS tracker on Mikey like 20 years before they were even invented. I don't get how he finds them, but he does. And then what's more is that he bumps into the two girls which tag along, and they manage to find him as well. They were driving down a cliff, and then he gets thrown off that cliff, which would have definitely broken some kind of bone. That was hella dangerous from the bad guy, Troy. But besides the point, they drive off, and I assume they have a fight with the guy that's driving, and then they get pulled over, and you know, the girls come down and try and find Brand. They too managed to find him at this restaurant, and I'm like, why wouldn't they have started searching in the woods? Or maybe they did and they saw this restaurant. I don't know. How did they get down after that? It all doesn't make any sense, and it's just a really plot convenient thing. That's something that the Goonies has in spades: plot convenience. Just things just keep happening in order to either move the plot along, to bring characters together, or to stop something from happening, and it's so obvious that it's doing this as well. But even with all of these questions on my mind, I still find a lot of these scenes fun from both a story point and even a humorous point. There are some great moments of drama thrown into the movie as well. One prime example of this is when the Goonies end up at the wishing well thinking that they found the treasure only to be let down. They then find out Troy is up there and he could use the bucket to help get everybody out. This leads to Mikey giving a great speech about being separated and not being friends again because they all have to move away, but if they continue, then just maybe they can save the day. This is one last adventure for them. They are the underdogs, or Goonies as it were, and they band together to solve the mysteries that professionals haven't done so in 300 years. I really like this scene and a few others that take the more serious route, and so it's not all action and adventure. The last thing I want to talk about besides spoilers is the fact that whenever this movie got released, it never got released the same in a lot of different countries, because a lot of countries either cut scenes out or put extra scenes into the movie when it was released, and I find that really odd. Like in some countries, the scene where the Fratelli breaks out of jail by, punching the guard and proving that he's an imbecile was cut in order to show that the police aren't that incompetent in real life. Which I think is strange, but okay, that was a weird cut. Some countries cut out the first time Mikey meets Sloth because of the horrific nature and the fact that it's really scary, so they just got rid of it to make it a little bit more of a kid-friendly film. Sometimes countries would actually add a few other scenes into the film as well, which again is odd. Not very many movies and stuff have such a big change in between countries like that, so it's just strange to hear this kind of stuff. One scene from this movie that is infamous is one that is really confusing. As a kid, when I watched this film, at the end when they're talking to the parents about their adventures, Data mentions that they fought an octopus, and I thought, well, I didn't see any octopus in this film, maybe he's just making it up in order to make their adventure seem more heroic. In fact, this was a scene from the film, it's just a deleted scene, where the kids on the way from the caves to the pirate ship when they're in the water have to fight off a giant octopus, and it's not very exciting, to be honest. It grabs Mouth and Steph and it tries to kill them, and then Data saves the day with his old school tape recorder, which plays music underwater at a pretty good clarity, if I might say so myself, and then he puts it inside the mouth of the octopus, closes the mouth, and then the octopus is just so happy to have music inside of it that it dances away. It is a really silly scene. I'm glad that they cut this out, because it just totally breaks the flow of the movie. Where everything else had a comedic style to it, it was more centered in reality, stretching that word, but this is really goofy and really stupid. Even the solution to getting the octopus away is just really phoned in and really dumb, so I'm glad that they got rid of it. But then they should have fixed up the line at the end of the film where Data said, yeah, the time we fought a giant octopus, just so it didn't confuse people like me. Now, a few little spoilers from the end of the film that I just have to mention because these two things make me laugh so much. The first is that at the end of the film, Chunk and Sloth have become best friends to the point where Chuck considers him his brother. That's great, cool. Then he adopts Sloth without really telling his mum or anything, and that always makes me laugh because how absurd is it? He already has 2 other siblings, and now they have to take care of Sloth as well. He would be hard to take care of with his mental state as it is, but they don't even question it. I'd love how he just says to Sloth, "Yep, we're going to adopt you." Like, he just made the call for the family. Did he discuss it with them? What happened there? If my son brought home a strange deformed man, I'd have a lot of questions before I even considered adopting him, but whatever. The other thing is that when Mikey's dad rips up the contract at the end of the film and throws it into the air, you can clearly see someone else throwing up more paper behind him like half a second later. It's so dumb, but it makes me laugh every single time. In the end, I say in my opinion that the Goonies are worth it. That's right, I enjoy this movie quite a lot. The action is superb, the acting is fairly good even though most of the actors are their first role, and the fact that they're child actors. The cinematography and the set design is just off the charts. It is clearly a beautiful movie that was made with a lot of love put behind it. I like how every single person in the Goonies, aside from Steph, really has a point in the film. They do something constructive in the film in order to save the day. It's not all Brand fixing everything, or not all Mikey doing everything. So everybody has a role to play in the film, and that's good. I may have pointed out all those plot conveniences and things that I question in the film, but it honestly doesn't deter from it because it's such a fun film to watch. You get sucked into the world, you get sucked into the adventure that is going on, and you can't help but, you know, just want to see how it ends, want to see what the next trap's going to be, want to see how the kids are going to get out of it. The movie can drag on a bit, especially at the start, because they take so long to set up the characters and get the adventure started, but I think the movie as a whole makes up for it. So the reason why I did this review is because the day before I upload this is my sister's birthday, and she and I used to watch this movie all the time, and I mean all the time. We loved this movie. We loved the adventures, we loved the traps, we loved how they solved everything, we loved all those stupid plot things that we pointed out, and it was one of our favorite films. So as a way of saying happy birthday to you, I dedicate this episode to you. And it's not a full episode like I did to Kitty or to Sven before this. You didn't get a whole video, but you do get a happy birthday, which is more than what they got, so yeah. For the rest of you, don't forget to like and subscribe and write some comments down below and tell me if you thought the Goonies was good or not. If you enjoyed it like my sister and I did, or if you thought it was crummy. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye. All I do know is that the Goonies are good enough. Good enough for me. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, that is so embarrassing. Let's do another take. I'm sorry to everyone that has to listen to my bad singing. Brand is played by Sean. Brand is played by Josh.